What's up, sports bettors? So we've been running hot still on Underdog Fantasy. This cashed yesterday. I gave out this play on Twitter as well as in an article. So hopefully, some people were able to tail it. Let me know if you were. But what we're going to be going through today is just a bunch more player props. I mean, I have a lot. I have a lot of player props already, and it's early in the morning, and I found a lot of value. So again, like the purpose of the OddsJam YouTube, I'm just showing you things I'm putting my own money on. And it's really that simple. If I have plays on Underdog Fantasy, it's because I'm finding value on Underdog Fantasy. If I have plays on Prize Picks, I'm finding value on Prize Picks. FanDuel, I'm finding value on FanDuel. And today, I found a lot of value on Underdog Fantasy. So let's go ahead and let's get into it. The first prop I have, we can just dive in, is Patrice Bergeron over 3 shots on goal on Underdog. So you can see the sports books, BetRivers, Barstool, they have the over 3.5 juiced, and we're getting over 3, right? So we're getting over 3 at minus 122 implied odds in a 3-pick or a 5-pick entry. So that's a good sign. When we're getting over 3, when certain sportsbooks have the over 3.5 juiced, that's exactly what we want. But you will notice some sportsbooks like FanDuel and DraftKings, they have the under juiced. So there's a little bit of disagreement in the market for Patrice Bergen on whether his over 3.5 should be juiced towards the over or the under. But regardless, getting over 3 is a no-brainer, right? If Patrice has exactly 3 shots on goal, we're going to push. Anyone who places this over on a sports book would lose. So we found value. We found an edge. And that really is why the screen is useful and how I use the screen. And you may be like, 3 versus 3.5, that doesn't seem like that big of a deal. It's a massive deal. You can see right here, for example, Owen Tippett, his over 1.5 shots on goal on Barstool is minus 167. His over 2.5 shots on goal on FanDuel and DraftKings, so sportsbooks, have some disagreement on where to set the line, but you can see his over 2.5 is a heavy underdog. The over is plus 136. The under in that case is minus 178. And the over 1.5 is minus 167. So usually that's like an 100 cent jump on the sports books from 1.5 to 2.5 shots on goal. Like this distribution is centered around such a low number. We're not talking about an NBA point total, going from 220 to 220 half. Like my next play is Marvin Jones under 2 receptions. Like that's a massive jump. You can see in his last game against the Cowboys, he had 2 receptions. In every single, his distribution is basically 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4 receptions centered around 2, right? So the probability Marvin Jones has exactly 2 receptions, just like he did last game, is probably like 30%. And we're going to be pushing on Underdog, taking the under 2 if he has 2 receptions. Anyone who bets the under 1.5 on Prize Picks, on Barstool, any of these platforms, they're losing, right? So we're finding value. We're finding an edge. We're data-driven sports bettors. And really that's the point of OddsJam, It's like there's tens of thousands of odds across these books, across these bookies. You're not going to be able to scan them manually and compare them to the sports books. There's just so much data out there. So what OddsJam tries to do is make it easier. I kind of treat the screen like a little day trader. And I'm just like, okay, where are there discrepancies between Prize Picks and Underdog, or, Underdog and the sports books? And this just jumps out. It's like, whoa, 2? Everyone else at 1.5? That's a massive jump. No brainer taking the under. So then I found a play on the EV tool. So the EV tool is probably the tool I use most. I'm on CJ over 6.5 assists. And what's really cool about the EV tool is it compares lines set at the same level. So the screen we were just looking at makes it easy to see 2.0 versus 1.5, where sportsbooks have the line set at different levels. What the EV tool points out is discrepancies in the odds. So on Underdog Fantasy, we're getting minus 122 implied odds for 3-pick or 5-pick entries. And what you're going to notice is dang, all the sports books are pricing it kind of market consensus, let's say around minus 145. Bet Online, very sharp offshore sports book, has it minus 149. Minus 133 on Caesars, minus 142 on FanDuel. So maybe around minus 140, we're getting minus 122. So the EV tool is comparing lines at the same level. What is the price, right? So the EV tool is comparing prices, not lines. The screen makes it easy to compare lines. Where are sportsbooks setting lines at different levels? What the EV tool is really good at doing is just being like, okay, here are a bunch of lines set at the same level. We're going to scan millions of odds, update them in real time, and point out the big pricing discrepancies. So for the sportsbooks I'm using, it's fully customizable. For the sportsbooks I'm using, this is the second biggest, the second most profitable bet, a bet with an edge. CJ over 6.5 assists. You can see all these sportsbooks are pricing it, minus 145. So the way I view it is it's kind of like, okay, we know we can get CJ over 6.5 assists at minus 122. And what's so crazy is like this bet is graded in the same way. On DraftKings, it's minus 145. It's a different price, but it's the same bet. If CJ has 7 or more assists, your bet wins, right? It's graded in the same way on all these books. So it's kind of like having hundreds of different prices for a stock. It's just crazy. So FanDuel's telling us this stock is worth 142, Caesars 133, DraftKings 145, BetOnline. We know that's a pretty sharp sports book, so we put a little more weight into their odds, minus 149. So we look at all this market data and we're like, dang, yeah, getting minus 122 is an absolute no-brainer value. So I ended up locking it in, 1.42% profit margin. If you don't understand why this play is so attractive, is you have to remember these returns are daily. People talk about investing in the stock market, 8% a year. This 1.42% edge in a day. Profit margin, same thing. That's how you get rich, sports betting. So hunting for value as it is. So we'll get into my plays in a sec, but remember it's free to browse odds on OddsJam. Any sport you want to look at, the alternate lines, whatever, right? You can look at anything. It's free on OddsJam, millions of odds, updating in real time. Treat it as your Bloomberg terminal. Be more data-driven. You'll make more money betting on sports, and that's what I care about. I don't know what you care about. But I ended up banging out a lot of these. So here you can see the Patrice, then these 2 picks. I also ended up taking some 5-pick entries. So you can see here, I have Cole under 2 shots on goal, Jake over 2, CJ over 6.5, Marvin Jones under 2, Matt's under 3. Again, if any of them move, this is a market. I give out plays that are actually good. So some of these lines, they're not going to last forever. So long story short, this is a 5-pick entry, 150 to win 3,000, 20x your money, 150 to win $3,000 seems pretty good. 150 to win 3,000. So here are the picks. And then what you'll notice is I also just put together Marvin Jones, CJ. I parlayed them individually with each of these plays. So the Jake one, the Matt's one, and then right here, the Cole one. And then I put them all together, 150 to win 3,000. And you may be like, why did you do that? You're weird. And the reason is what you'll notice is for NHL, they tell me my max wager is $250. Whereas for NBA, it's a little different. So I'm kind of playing with the system. For NBA, they let me bet $2,000. But for NHL, the max said $250. And then there's also player limits. So you can only bet on hockey players. It only lets me bet $400, I think, total per player. So that's why this is 150. And this is just the final for NFL. It's 1,000. So here's my 1,000 on Marvin Jones. CJ, I could get another 1,000 down on the NBA, but I'm going to call it here. So hopefully this was helpful. Let's make money.